Well, I'd like to begin by saying how much of a pleasure it is for me to be back here on stage at Phocuswright after a few years of absence. So we have a very interesting discussion here. I want to first of all also thank Greg Abbott for subbing for a panelist who unfortunately wasn't able to make it because his flight was canceled. Kind of sign of the times. So, gentlemen, we've heard for years that the future is this hyper-personalization, and it's all driven by big data. But lately, I've also heard about the idea of anonymous personalization. So rather than a one-to-one marketing, it's more of a segmentation approach. Can you just both comment on where you see the kind of the state of personalization relative to big data, metadata right now in the industry? Well, we'll begin with
well, I mean, I think personalization is not overhyped. It's critical to our industry because our industry has historically been very one-size-fits-all. You know, the same option is presented to the same person based on, two parameters: duration and price. But not everyone cares about duration and price in the same way. So this is about putting the right options in front of the right person at the right time. I think we tend to think of it too much like customization, like the seat will be a special color for you, or things like that, like your ticket will be printed in some weird font. But it's not about that. It's about efficiency of the process and making it super easy to find what you're looking for as quickly as possible, because the number of options continues to explode in our industry, and we continue to fragment. So relevance and speed and efficiency are just super important right now.
But are we at a point where we have more relevance with the search, or is it just attempts at being more relevant? It sounds like you were mentioning when we were sitting in the green room how many searches have exploded over just a short amount of time. So it sounds like people are continuing to search and not finding what they want.
Yeah, search volumes have more than quadrupled since the pandemic, and that's just the amount of options coming into the system, not just consumer behavior. So consumer behavior is driving some of it because there was a lot of pent-up demand for travel during COVID, so there's aspirational searches or people just looking for options. But also, you may have noticed travel is a little expensive right now, so that's also a factor. People are looking for the best deal and the best price. So there's more volume coming into the system, and I don't think we've necessarily done a great job of putting the right offer in front of the right traveler at the right time. We need to continue to improve on that.
And what's your view on this, Greg?
I think we're a long way off. I think it's one of those words that we throw out a lot, personalization. And okay, maybe that's way off is too far contrarian. I think some companies are starting to do it, and we have the opportunity to work with to support titans and trailblazers in their innovation. And I guess what we see across the spectrum is there's more than ever an opportunity to leverage technology in a way that will allow you to personalize things. But the moat to get to actually rendering a personalized offer is substantially wide because there's still so much siloed content. So it depends on which segment you're looking at. And you take maybe Disney, for example, who we think is doing a fantastic job at nudging personalization forward, but that's because you've got to use the app to have the experience, and they've done a great job of figuring out who you are, and they're actually moving you around the park using real-time machine learning to be able to optimize where you should stand in line. So there's some companies that are really nailing personalization in terms of experience, but on a broad base, I think in travel, we get to serve other sectors. So retail, finance, I'm watching other sectors that are just leaps and bounds ahead of where travel is. I feel like rewind to mobile when it was the year of the mobile in 2007, 2008, 2009. So I think we've got a ways to go before we're going to get to personalization.
I said the year of mobile, I think, was 2003 for me.
There you go.
Right. I was very early. So you mentioned machine learning and AI, and obviously they've not only become just beyond just being buzzwords, they're actual real technology that's implemented, throughout our ecosystem. So how are we learning through machine learning? How is the machine learning what our preferences are and trying to get towards this more, at least relevant search effort?
I think I agree we have a long way to go, but I kind of disagree that we haven't made serious strides. We've come a long way, and machine learning has to be the foundation of personalization because there's not enough scale in travel to really truly personalize. 80% of travelers only take one trip a year. So it's pretty hard to model what you're going to like based on something you did a year ago. So the only way this is going to work is if we create lookalike models and we use our data to be able to determine, based on what we know about that subscriber, what they're likely to prefer. And it used to be, literally, you cared about the cheapest flight only. But now people care about duration and layover times and carbon emissions. And if there's no Wi-Fi on the flight, my whole life will be shut down for 40 minutes. So there's all those things that you have to take into account when you try to figure out what an individual wants before they've booked it, when they have only done it once a year. So it's a challenge. But data and machine learning are the way that we can achieve those goals.
I think what we're seeing is cloud is a prerequisite to be able to use these tools. And there's still lots of companies in travel that are early on in the cloud journey. And so whether you've simply done a lift and shift and you're sitting in the cloud trying to figure out how to use it, in order to get to where Tom's talking about, you really need to be cloud enabled. You need to be able to use the building blocks that cloud allows you to do to exercise machine learning. You need to be looking at spot use cases of where you can create math models, because that's what it's doing, right? It's creating a mathematical probability model to have an offer connected to a specific use case. And you need to start exercising that muscle. And I bet you guys are doing that quite a bit at Travelport. And we see across our customer set, people are, again, if cloud is the baseline to get there, and you're going to be completely cloud enabled, using those tools, it's still early. We have a lot of opportunity in that space to use machine learning in much, much smarter ways.
I agree with that, but I also think that cloud doesn't fix things on its own. I think there's a lot of folks who just think you just pick it up and move it to cloud and miracles occur and all your problems are solved. I've seen a lot of pretty stupid implementations in the cloud that rival that of prem. So stupidity can be in many places, and just like smart implementations can be in many places. Cloud is a building block that starts that.
It's the building block that starts it. That's right.
But it doesn't fix things in and of itself. So just because someone says they're on the cloud doesn't mean their head's not in the clouds.
Well, it does bring up an interesting topic, though. Travelport has partnered with AWS, right, for kind of cloud services, and Amazon has all these tools that they've equipped their cloud users. Do you see Travelport adopting some of these tools?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we did it, is we want to use best-in-breed tools for productivity. Well, that's one of the issues, is that everything in this industry takes forever. Like, we have these 10-year projects, I'm used to 2-month projects, and so we want to take advantage of engineering productivity tools in the cloud. But that said, one of the things I don't like about the cloud environment, how it matters which cloud you're on. I mean, does people care what type of machine you're using or whether your Ethernet cables are green or yellow? I mean, it shouldn't matter. I mean, this is infrastructure. And I think we need to get to a point where all the clouds work together seamlessly, because we're going to be in hybrid mode as an industry. I may choose AWS, but someone else may choose something else. I still need to work with them seamlessly, and I think we have a ways to go to get everything working.
And you don't want lock-in as well, right? You don't want to be beholden to one single cloud provider. You want to be able to move across. But don't you think there's some real value to the fact that these components that are like AWS has a vertical specifically, for travel and hospitality, where they have building blocks that are specific tools that are fit to use case for our segment. And that really works as an accelerator for a lot of the clients that we see that are able to get further faster by using patterns that other people have already trailblazed. And I think that's, I don't know if Travelport's doing that, but we see that a real advantage for people that are leading in the industry.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, my whole goal is to learn from other people's mistakes so I don't have to make them myself, and that's what cloud lets you do. Right?
Well,
absolutely.
But even machine learning is a process of mistakes and learning, right? So
that's right.
There has to be some mistakes made. So what about kind of the basic issue? I have been here since the birth of online travel, and I think we all thought that we would have an automated agent, that would be the process, that the agent becomes automated. But all the searches kind of show that the traveler has become the travel agent in that sense. So when are we going to see a world where the knowledge of my preferences are so strong that we actually see information come back maybe proactively to suggest what I'd like to do versus me constantly searching and having to find what I want to do?
Well, I think we are largely automated. I mean, we've come a long way from calling someone on the phone and waiting for 40 minutes, and saying, what should I do? I think we've got tools in place, but there is a lot of data mining and kind of that type of thing happening. It used to be that our industry's always had a lot of searches per ticket. So it's 100 searches for a ticket 10 years ago was the norm. Now it's in the thousands of searches for each ticket that's issued, which means partly that people are looking more, but really there's just so much supply and so much kind of tools that are doing data mining to kind of find that needle in a haystack for the right flight at the right time. So I think there is a lot of that.
Yeah, it's challenging. How do you feel about that, Greg?
I think everybody is an agent ultimately. I think it is the tools should be such that I can find what I need when I need it. And so I don't know about a digital agent, but my phone is my digital agent, and I'm able to I should be able to discover the experience that I want to get to. I still think we have a long way to go. We have a lot of opportunity in that space.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting process to kind of see it evolve, but then not evolve at the same time. And it seems like one of the challenges we've always had in travel is that you may have a profile, and we can talk about where that profile lives in a moment, but that profile doesn't necessarily reflect your persona. Even on a business travel trip, you may have a different persona going out than coming back, or depending upon what the mission of that trip is. So how do we capture the persona of the reason why people are traveling and then deliver content that meets that persona on a better basis?
Well, I think a couple things. One is we have to give users the choice and the ability to opt into systems. So if you look at our business, almost all searches take place without a login. So you can search in as an anonymous user, and then the ticketing process is when you log in. So when you really need to understand what a user wants is during the search process, so you're offering the right thing at the right time. So I think that's certainly one of the issues. But I think a lot of it has to do with how we share information between ourselves in this industry. There's just not a lot of good cooperation and standardization. Everyone has their own special version of everything. Like your name is something different in every system. We have to start developing ways to share information up and down the ecosystem so that we can be more efficient.
Did you say standards?
I said S. Yeah, sorry. I know it's not supposed to say that in travel.
It's a challenge with standards in this industry, right, Greg?
Yeah, I think we're allergic to that word.
Yeah. The main role of standards is to know what you're breaking, I think, is the main goal.
Yeah. Well, I'll bring up a standard that we had quite a bit of a controversy in the technology roundtable yesterday about, which is the concept of self-sovereign identity. It's a blockchain term, but basically, in essence, it means that you have your own profile. You retain that profile, and you give permission on what elements of that profile you want to share, and it could actually be during the search process as well. Now, we have a blockchain session I'll be doing this afternoon, and we'll spend more time on overall blockchain then. But granted that we've had so many problems with standards, and there is an organization called the Decentralized Identity Foundation, where there is a special interest group for travel and technology that Nick Price and Doug Rice started. And so there's a bunch of use cases that have been started already on self-sovereign identity. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that will be part of the answer to trying to have an independent profile that can be controlled by the user?
I'll bet on Nick Price all day of the week. I think he's always pushing the envelope. I think for me, though, it's about again, it's got to be just seamless for me as a user to be able to have that opportunity to decide what to share. Again, I think we're a ways off from having that. So this idea, this concept, it's not unique, right? It's been around for a while. What the technology enables to happen is for the first time for the use case to make real sense on distributed ledger technology. So the technology is enabling these use cases to happen, but the adoption, like where is it going to come out? And again, I think it would have to be my wallet on my phone, right? Where I'm able to just sit there and select and decide what I share when I share it. And I just want to, before I give it over to Tom, one of the other points you made with this persona, why do I have to opt in whether I'm traveling for business or leisure anymore? We talked about that I have different needs. It's starting to merge. Post-COVID world, the bleisure market is burgeoning, and people, I think I am who I am, whether I'm traveling for business or family, I do both. And my persona is all of that. And maybe sovereign identity connects to that, so I can decide what to share depending on what my use case is.
I think there's really only one major issue with self-sovereign identity, and that is that users don't care at all about it. They don't opt into things. And so I think we have this system that requires sophisticated investment of time by users. They don't do that. I've seen this in other industries. When we present them with an option, for example, to be cookied to access a website, you know what they do? They push OK as fast as they can. They don't read the content. They get this stupid pop-up out of my, in front of me. So the users don't invest time in understanding how identity works and what they want, and that's one of the fundamental flaws. Machines have to do that. Data has to do that because the user they want you to figure it out for them, and they'll tell you what's wrong, but they very seldomly will they tell you what's right.
I think it's a great point.
Well, it's interesting. I asked a group that I was at a conference last week, how many have used NFC, near field communication? I'll ask how many people have used near field communication? Come on, how many people? How many people have used touch and pay? That's near field communication. When you get your SSI, it's going to be on your wallet. You're not going to know it's SSI. Right. It's just going to be part of your wallet and allow you to say, okay, I agree to share this information on this trip.
And you know that people are going to just share. There's going to be no discernment about what you share.
And Tom, the only thing I would disagree, at the core of what we're saying is personalization. There isn't one profile of a person who says, oh, I don't care about sharing information. Some people do care about sharing information. So there's a whole spectrum of people that, would embrace having a little more privacy and control.
Yeah, they certainly do. But if the privacy regime requires a PhD in software engineering to be able to figure out how it works, you're going to lose your audience. When people come to travel websites, they don't come to hang out and let's check out what's going on in Alaska today. No, they're going to buy a ticket and get out of there. So efficiency and not making them invest a bunch of time is what this is all about. Personalization to me isn't about what color seat you have. It's booking the ticket and getting you back to your life to do what you want to do and getting you on the road.
So I want to get back to the subject of the data itself. And for years, we heard about we have structured data, or we try to have structured data, and then we have unstructured data in this industry, and there's so much unstructured data. How much advancements have we made over the last few years in bringing structure to that unstructured data in order to drive things? You're smiling like you have an answer there, Tom.
I want to say something bad. I mean, I was...
say something bad.
I was trying to say we're so far along in personalization. Unstructured data is the thing that drives me crazy about this industry, because if you look at the system of record, the P&R, there's all these remarks where you can just put in random stuff. How can you run a business when your data is just like a bunch of free-form comments? I mean, we've got to this is another example, standardization, cooperation, talking to each other. We've got to get unstructured data out of our industry so that we can use our data together in an intelligent way. It's a real problem.
I don't think we've made a lot of advancements in getting rid of unstructured data. I think we're using tools to structure unstructured data, and I think those tools are getting smarter. But the operational side of it, there's still a bunch of unstructured fields and things that are in our industry that have just been around for decades.
It's not just that. We call the same thing different things on purpose. Like this class of service it has different names depending which airline you're on. The Wi-Fi has some fancy name. Just call a duck for... Geez, it makes no sense.
I remember checking into a hotel in the early days of Wi-Fi and asking if they had Wi-Fi, and they had no idea what I meant by that term even. So it's funny how that kind of progresses. You mentioned sustainability a few minutes ago, Tom, and this is also an interesting point, because I do a lot in the corporate travel space, and there's some debate on whether travelers are really conscious of sustainability, despite all of the media saying that they are focused on it. Certainly we heard from Rohit about the need for sustainability. How much is that becoming part of the search, and how does that get incorporated in data so it delivers better results?
Well, everyone has these great, like, pithy studies where they do surveys, and the consumers say 41% would pay more for a sustainable trip, and they do the search, and they're like, cheapest, shortest, thank you, and they ignore the sustainability data. So I think this is an example where machine learning has to take center stage, because you can put a sustainability number in front of a user. They're not going to understand what it means. There's no standardization. And we've seen take-up for sustainable travel go from 0 to 4%, and then it just flatlines. So the way to do this is with search weightings. I mean, so right now search weightings are heavily based on price. But you can see more and more parameters coming in, and carbon emissions is going to be one of those parameters that influences the search weightings. And if a flight is super efficient for the environment, it should be elevated in the search weightings. And only machine learning can do that, can determine what the traveler prefers, what is a fair trade-off, what is the right amount of carbon emissions for price. Humans can't figure that out. What does 36 pounds of carbon mean to, I'm an expert, I don't know what that means. So, we have to use machine learning and intelligence to solve the sustainability problem.
And do you think it trumps loyalty, like sustainability choice in filtering versus who I want to fly or how I want to search?
I tend to discount end travelers when it comes to this. I think that corporate travel managers are going to drive sustainability. They're the ones who have the power, they control the budget, and they have corporate goals to achieve. So I think that what we need to do as an industry is put the control in the hands of the corporate travel manager to weight their search results to reflect what their business and their company is about. And if their company is about sustainable environment and an Earth that's still here 50 years, which I would hope would be a common goal of companies around the world, then they can use those tools to influence those outcomes.
Okay.
Fully agree.
Well, something else that's complicating the search process is the desire to unbundle services and then rebundle them dynamically. Alex from ATPCO, the CEO of ATPCO, said that he expects 75% of airline offers to be dynamic bundles in the next few years. We see attribute pricing being driven by hoteliers. Pick the exact room you want to stay in with the exact location and amenities. Very important for the resort market. So how is that going to change the whole search and process when we have bundles that are difficult to compare against each other? And then how does that relate to personalization and our efforts here with big data?
Well, again, we aspire. I think it was more relevant for Travelport, but I'll start, and I'll be quick because I know we're almost out of time. Look, I think it's when we come down to this, there's probably what's Travelport doing in space? What are you guys doing? I'm going to pass this one to you because I'm looking at time.
Well, I think fragmentation is great. I think that these offers that are fully integrated create a whole bunch of waste because we're putting stuff in front of a user they don't want. And by fragmenting and not saying, putting bags and Wi-Fi and all these things or hotel options into one, it allows us to personalize to the user and not provide a service or put a meal on a plane that gets thrown away. That kind of waste has got to be expunged from our industry, and I think this fragmentation of the offer gives us the ability to now construct an offer on the fly based on what that user wants and based on what we know. Again, the same traveler could be on a leisure versus a business trip with a different package. So I welcome the fragmentation. It does create challenges, and it creates more search volumes and more data, and the cloud providers make more money because we have to buy more machines, all of that stuff. But it creates the opportunity for us to truly add value for that subscriber and create a bundled offering that meets their needs.
I'm so glad I let you go first because you were very optimistic. I'm on the other side. I think we're
way
off from retailing. I think it's a great vision. I think we aspire to get there, but the technology and the way that the data is siloed and the way that we're fragmented and all different companies are doing it different ways, we're a long way off from being able to offer a retail experience in travel.
Yeah, that's where we are now, for sure. But the fragmentation,
aspirationally, where we want to go.
Fragmentation is happening, and either we'll get with it or we'll get it wrong and we'll go out of business as an industry. So this is an existential thing that we've got to get right. But I agree, it's a steep hill, and I look forward to climbing it because who likes being in boring technology industries? You want challenging hard ones. And
well said, Tom.
There you go. You're in one.
Well, we're just about out of time, but I do want to have you comment, particularly based on your background, on the loss of third-party cookies and how that's going to change the whole targeting advertising side of personalization.
You want to ask me this with 22 seconds left, huh? Good riddance to the third-party cookie. We're not going to miss you, is my point of view. We are putting a tracker on a browser without the user's consent. That's wrong. It doesn't work. And we've got systems that we're putting in place now based on first-party cookies, logins, consent, and modeling using data that will replace that in a much, much better way. So I will not miss third-party cookies, and neither should you.
Okay, and that's going to have to be the last word because we're out of time. Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you so much, Greg, for subbing in the last minute. We appreciate it. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Norm.
Thanks, man.
Well done.
Sorry, I was...
Introducing the era of the NF ticket. As the natural evolution of e-tickets, NF tickets run on blockchain technology. Imagine travelers being able to resell and transfer their tickets to someone else instantly, decentralizing ticket distribution in just one click. We are also redefining revenue streams across the travel ecosystem. Smart contracts allow for an automatic and seamless revenue sharing distribution between sellers, intermediaries, and the airlines. Again, with just one